Yeah, that and it's kind of hard because it's not the interpreter's fault that she's not understanding me. Just sometimes I'm not sure about the right signs.
Mm.
So sometimes there's a that like C has different signs
Oh,
compared to ASL. So like
yeah.
with ASL, I don't know sometimes, and sometimes I have to like kind of make up a sign if I'm not sure. So like an example would be the sign for parents would be like in ASL, parents is like mom and dad with a open five hand shape like this, mom, dad. But my made up sign is like this sort of an M on your chin, like for mom, and then a D on your head for dad.
Yeah, okay.
I had an interesting conversation with my deaf friend. Like, he said he liked my sign better because it makes sense.
All right, so whoever runs this ASL and SEE, whoever runs these languages, please consider changing that sign because I like the way that Nathan does it too.
Yeah. There's not that many like strict rules in ASL and C, so it just depends on like a lot of things like region and stuff like that. So regionally, they have accents, different signs for different things.
Whoa.
Like East Coast, they have some fast signing compared to West Coast, more formal signing.
Interesting.
But the West Coast is more like slow signing. So you can see stylistic differences depending on the region.
Very interesting. So if you were to just, sign with somebody and you didn't know where they were from, could you be able to sort of guess based on how they sign?
Not always, because I'm not the best like at ASL, so that's the one thing. I do want to improve that though, because it sometimes it can be very easy. So to guess where people are from, it just depends. It's kind of like a gaydar, but signdar. Like you can kind of see.
Nice.
My signdar, it needs to improve a little bit, but it will. It
That
will.
is funny.
Wait, can we just go back to the these classes of
Yeah.
of the deaf community? What I'm imagining when you're saying that is sort of like a social hierarchy within deaf
That's what it
communities.
sounds like.
And it sounds like the better you are at ASL, maybe the more you're respected. Is that have you found that to be the case, or is that what is that like, and what is it like talking with people through ASL that can't do C, or have the generational deafness like you've mentioned, or other scenarios where they're just completely in ASL?
Yeah, it's basically like a social basis. Like
Okay.
for example, at Gallaudet, I went there 1 year before transitioning to RIT. So they were very strict about kind of social classes. There were some like sort of complications with those social classes. Like one thing is I'm a white man. So I was not trying to learn ASL at Gallaudet, but some people didn't have patience with had patience with me, excuse me. My friend who was Mexican and a woman, they were not patient with her. And she was actually trying to learn ASL. So it's interesting how those other identities can impact it. There's the intersectionality of it.
Oh, very interesting.
So you felt like it was easier to not have to be super good at ASL because of your
Ethnicity?
ethnicity and your gender.
Yeah, like when I was at Gallaudet, I just saw how different, like for example, Black deaf students, they're like sort of a separate group almost. And then there's like a deaf blind group at Gallaudet, and they're more like isolated, sort of like a group clique type thing. And I wasn't good at communicating with the deafblind group because when you sign with deafblind individuals, you use protactile sign. So you grab onto their hands, and that's how you
Oh, yeah.
understand, or they understand. So that was out of my comfort zone, is trying
That's
to communicate
intense.
with people like that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, man.
It's
And so
interesting.
have you figured that out? Have you ever tried to learn that, or is it like completely foreign to you? Like, is that something that's easier to pick up if you're already familiar with ASL or C?
For me, I am like pretty clueless about it, but specifically people are trained to learn protactile sign.
Protactile.
Like I was on a deaf academic boat team that was in high school. So it's like hearing like a just regular academic boat, if you know what that is, but for deaf people only. So it's the deaf academic boat, and my captain was deafblind. So I had to sort of learn how to navigate conversations with them and make sure that you're sitting right in front of them, have the appropriate lighting, because not all deafblind people are blind fully. So there's a certain proximity
yeah.
you sit near them,
Yeah, okay.
depending on their needs.
Very interesting.
Wait, so when you say boat, do you mean it like a boat? Like a
No, like excuse me, bowl. That was an interpreter error.
okay.
Bowl. So like an academic bowl, if that makes sense. So you have a regional level
yeah.
on the West Coast, South, Northeast, like all the different regions. And then you have the nationals, which were at Gallaudet University for the academic bowl.
Is this trivia? Is that? Yeah, trivia.
Yeah,
okay.
it was trivia.
Yeah, okay.
Good one, Liam.
Yeah,
Good one.
okay, that makes sense then. I was gonna say that the captain of the boat was deaf and blind. I was just gonna ask her how that would work.
Yeah, that would be cool. Hey,
Like,
I would be impressed.
a boat party all the time.
Yeah, I guess so.
So so when you're interacting with blind and deaf individuals, and like let's say they are completely blind and really and completely blind and deaf, and they really need complete protactile. Is it protactile sign or protactile, like what's the word for it?
I'm not sure what's the word.
Interpreter knows. It would be protactile sign.
Okay.
So there is protactile as well as just tactile. Protactile has other features that you add on, like using people's hands or backs to show where things are. But tactile is just using regular ASL, but they're feeling your hands while you're talking. So when you're finger spelling, they're feeling your hand.
Very interesting. So I mean, I'd imagine that's a much more intimate thing. Especially with a stranger. If you're just trying to communicate with a stranger, now all of a sudden you're touching their hands. That's got to have a layer of awkwardness to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I remember when my mom first met my captain. My team thought she was drunk because she was so awkward communicating with her. She was so like rocking back and forth and not knowing what to do.
That's very interesting.
But yeah, it's a great experience. It's more intimate, but it's one of there's different classes, like I said, in the deaf community. So that's one group, the deaf blind group. So they're like, it's just another group of deaf people.